All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Freedom Fan Podcast. Tonight, we are joined with Kit Kat.
Hello.
And Mr. Jeff Younger.
Hello.
Normally, we have Conservative Ant, but he is ill today and could not make it. So, we'll just be the three of us. So, Jeff Younger, if you don't mind, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, you may have heard about the Save James case that has prompted the governor to respond and prompted a lot of legal activity in this state. When my son was 2 years old, my ex-wife began to try to transition him to a girl. My first inkling of this was she started putting him into timeouts saying the monsters only eat boys, don't be a boy. And by the time he was 3, she had already begun to cross-dress him. She was teaching him that he had a girl's brain and a boy's body. And if you go out onto YouTube, you can search for "Mommy Says I'm a Girl," and that's the first video I ever took on an iPhone. Like, I didn't even know how to take videos, and that was my son explained this to me, and I thought it was important, so I took a video of it. And he just says, "Mommy teaches me that I'm a girl. She puts dresses on me. She paints my nails," and she was trying to transition this boy. By the time 5 years old. He came around to 5 years old. She had already enrolled him in school under a fake girl's name. The school was supporting her and teaching my son that he was a girl. When I would take my son to school in boys' clothes, the teacher would actually give him a dress. This is in Capel Independent School District.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. And so eventually that led to a huge trial after our divorce. We had our divorce trial, and then we had another trial. And that was in 2019. And the top experts on both sides of the transgender issue showed up in this little courtroom in Dallas County. And I won that trial, and I got 50-50 custody with my sons. And the problem was that it was contingent on me doing counseling. And I had to cover these 9 points with the counselors. They were just like normal things you'd expect, like
okay.
Recognizing the signs of bullying, unconditionally loving your children, things like that you would expect family counseling to be about. The counselors, once I completed those 9 points, the counselors were supposed to tell the court, and I was supposed to get 50-50 custody. But because the counselors in Texas and actually throughout the United States are actually prohibited by their professional associations, by the American Psychology Association, American Psychiatric Association, they're prohibited from helping children identify with their biological sex. People don't know that. And so they never covered the 9 points. And after a year and a half, I still didn't have 50-50 custody with my kid. So I eventually found out that my son's counselor, Dr. Susan Fletcher out of Frisco, Texas, who is an Abbott appointee, by the way. Abbott appointed her to the Board of Examiners of Psychology in Texas. She helps regulate the psychology practice of psychology in Texas. She was actively teaching my son that he was a girl, using his fake girl's name, using female pronouns, and telling him that he was actually a girl. I revoked
the therapist was.
The therapist was, yeah.
And how old was he at the time that the therapist was?
9. By that time, he had reached 9 years old. Yeah, well, 8 and 9.
And this started at 7, you said, or 5?
It started at 2.
Oh, at 2. Oh.
Yeah, this has been going on for a long, long time. So when I revoked consent for the counselor to see my son, that violated the court order because the court had ordered that counseling. And I have also consistently violated the court's order. They put a gag order on me. So they said that I can't, like right now, me talking to you is illegal. I'm not supposed to be doing this.
You're not supposed to be doing any kind of
formal
interview.
No.
Sorry.
The court order prohibits me from talking about whether my son's a boy or a girl.
Wow.
I can't tell you my son's real name. I can't tell, which is James. I can't talk about any transgender issue, LGBT issue. I can't make any blog post, social media post, write any papers, write any books or anything.
You have
It's a
no First
completely
Amendment rights to do
unconstitutional
And
gag order.
this is ordered by a judge?
It is, yes. And I have consistently I've told the judge on every interview that I give, I've told the judge in court twice that if the judge believes that that gag order is constitutional, then she is obligated to give me the maximum jail sentence she can give, which is 1 year. And I will issue a writ of habeas corpus, and we will go to the Supreme Court of Texas, and we'll find out if her order is legal. Well, she knows it's illegal. So instead of doing that, because I went and testified at the Texas Senate, because I worked in the Texas House of Representatives, and I've been very active in getting a law passed, because I put so much pressure on Greg Abbott that I made that guy write a letter to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. He actually asked them, are sex change surgeries on kids child abuse? He had to ask them.
He did.
To
Just like
determine
4 weeks ago.
And they determined that it was, of course.
Yes.
And they also determined that anybody that doesn't report these surgeries can go to jail for a year. And then Matt Krause has just sent a letter to Representative Matt Krause, just sent a letter to the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, asking him, well, okay, if sex change surgeries are child abuse, is chemical castration of children child abuse when we give them puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones? So the judge knows that I've done all this, and that gag order was specifically put in place so that I wouldn't be able to participate in our democracy.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to lobby the legislature. I wouldn't be able to tell my fellow citizens what the courts are doing and what the counselors are doing. And so I've refused to obey it. So in retaliation, the judge has said, well, since you won't follow my order, which is presumed to be in the best interest of your children, you can't see your children anymore, and you don't have any parental rights anymore. So I haven't seen my son since the 31st of July. I don't have any right to eat. I don't have any right to know if she's given him drugs, whether she's taken him to transgender treatments. I don't have any right to know any of that. I have no idea what's going on with my sons. And this judge, Mary Brown, I call her Judge Bloody Mary Brown. This judge did this out of retaliation because of my political activities that are protected by the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's how bad, listen, that's how bad the Texas family courts are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not just in Texas. I have
right.
a huge problem with friend of the court. Huge.
Yeah.
I prefer to stay very far away from it. Just,
Yeah.
you be a dad, I be a mom, and let's get through it, because it's the most corrupt form of our legal system that exists, and people don't see how bad it really is in front of the court. I mean, they have the power to remove your children for absolutely no reason.
You're
and
right.
Anything, this judge is harming your child.
There's no question about it. This judge is harming my kids. And what this judge is trying to do is, look, this is all a coordinated attempt between the counselors and the judge to get an expert to testify in court with the ruling that they want. What happened was, my son was with me during the month of July. I had him all the month of July. That's part of my visitation schedule. So he had 2 appointments with the counselor while he was with me. This counselor for a year and a half has refused to see my son when he comes from my home. And the reason is very simple. My son only presents as a girl with his mother. With everybody else, he presents as a boy. He wears boys' clothes, calls himself James, everything.
So
you think
in front of everybody else, so he doesn't want to be a girl.
He doesn't want to be a girl. He's never
been
wanted
conditioned with his mom, indoctrinated by his mom.
And he's scared. He's scared to death of her. He's scared of her. He's told me many, many times he's very, very scared of her. And you know what? He has damn good reason to be scared.
Absolutely.
Have they ever ordered, why hasn't a psychological evaluation of both parents been in order? Because it kind of seems to me like
good question.
Munchausen by proxy.
So I spent $30,000 attempting to get the courts to order a full forensic not a psychological, psychiatric evaluation of both of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'll submit to it. The courts have steadfastly refused to do that. Not only that, but you'd think, for me to present, adversarial evidence, which is the basis of our whole court system, right? Mm-hmm. I need an independent psychological evaluation of a psychologist of my choice of my son's, right?
Right.
I've been denied that for 7 years. I've never had an independent psychological evaluation of my children.
They only want you to go to who
They only the court appointed, only the court gets to appoint the psychologist. And there's this all of psychologists. Let me tell you the psychologists that have lied in my case. So in the original divorce case, we had a guy out in Frisco again, a guy named Blake Mitchell, disgusting liar. This guy makes a living lying in court in child custody cases. So I showed him that video of my son saying, "Mommy says I'm a girl, you know, mommy's cross-dressing me," during the divorce trial, okay? Mm-hmm. He concluded that there was no evidence that my ex-wife was tampering with my son's gender identity, and that I had made a false accusation, and on that basis gave me less than standard possession.
But you had a video of your son.
I had a video of it. And as we all know, she's been tampering with his gender identity.
Yes.
He perjured himself in court to give the answer that the judge wants. That's what these people do. Then in the 2019 trial, they brought in a guy named Dr. Albritton, another just horrendous liar that makes a living lying in family court. And he said my son should be transitioned to a girl, straight up. Told the court that. My son should be transitioned to a girl. And my expert,
at 9 years old.
Yes. Oh no, but at that time he was 7.
God help us.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal. My expert, Dr. Levine, showed conclusively that he misunderstood the diagnostic criteria for gender dysphoria and had misdiagnosed my son. That's why the judge gave me 50-50 custody. Because Dr. Albritton walked in there and lied, and we could prove it. So now I got Dr. Susan Fletcher. Yeah, I got Dr. Susan Fletcher who's saying my sons are scared of me. And I could line up 100 people outside that courtroom to testify that's completely false. So she spends a grand total of 2 hours with my sons when they're with me during that only had 2 appointments in July. And in that 2 hours, she concludes that I should endure a CPS investigation, that my children are so terrified of me that the court has to remove the children from me. So I have the possession schedule of a child murderer or a pedophile. Right. That's the possession schedule that I have right now. All because I exercised my free exercise right to speech and participated in the political process, informed my fellow citizens to try to pass a law, and told them exactly what this liar, Dr. Susan Fletcher, has been doing to my son.
But at the end of the day, like, you're just trying to help your son. Like, This is, to me, this doesn't seem, and I want to make it like clear that we're not saying and we're not taking a stance on whether transgender is a real thing or whether you're for it or whether any of us are against it. But this child is a child.
Yeah.
And this is a brain cannot decision. Wrap around how.
Yeah, and this is a child with 2 clear pathways. Okay, with his mom, he will definitely be transitioned. He will be transitioned.
Children when he gets older.
The health and psychological outcomes for children who transition, they have like 40 times the suicide rate of normal kids. Okay,
yes, they do.
If he goes with me, he has a 80%, 90% chance at a normal life.
Right.
The outcomes with me are objectively better. Yet the family court is choosing the objectively worse outcomes and are privileging this abnormal gender expression that he only has with his mom. So all I can conclude is that Judge Mary Brown is running a child abuse court. She approves of child abuse, and that she's cooperating in the abuse of my son.
I mean, that's pretty much what it tells me too. Because even when I was reading, like before you came on, I went through all right, let's see what everyone's got to say about him.
Yes.
And my favorite thing ever is that they bring up that and one of them was like, well, child support. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Because you had 50-50 custody.
Yeah. And here's the deal.
I don't know why you were paying child support.
Oh, I pay $30,000 a year in child support. Okay. So
but I don't understand what one had to do with the other.
Yeah, people don't understand that. That's number one. Number two is I don't owe any child support. I've never owed child support. During COVID, the Texas AG had a huge problem. They had processing glitches in their child support payment system. Everybody knows that. The judge knows that. It's come before them hundreds and hundreds of times during COVID. So for 4 months in a row, I had payments that were late. That's not being late. That's not owing child support.
Yeah. So but
I just love that that's what it was focused on. I don't honestly care.
I know. They also say, Jeff Younger lied about his military service. I've never lied about my military service. When in the 1980s, when I was in the United States military, I was at the airborne school. I was a raging libertarian before I became a conservative, like a lot of us young people are. And they discharged this gay cook in the 45th Company's mess hall. I don't even know this guy. I mean, the guy had basically served me beans on a plate a couple of times. That's all I knew about him. But they gave him a dishonorable discharge. And I said, that's bullshit, because dishonorable discharges are like worse than a federal felony conviction, and they're really reserved for cowardice in battle.
Right?
You know, for a man who rapes an enemy combatant or something. It's something like that, right? So they could have given this guy general discharge or something like that, and he could have gone on, you know, it's fine. And I'm also not a guy who believes that gay people should be allowed to serve in the military. I don't believe anybody has a right to serve in the military. I think the officer corps can set any criteria they want, including racial criteria. The officer corps should be able to decide anything that's in the benefit of the interests of the armed forces. You know, and so when the officer corps determined that because I led a protest off base for this guy, at one point I crossed the street and dropped some trash into a trash can that was on the base side of the street. They said that I had led a protest on base. And on that basis, they waxed me out of the infantry. So that's what happened. So here's my thing to all these leftists, right? So I spent time in jail for gay rights. Have you? Which one of you leftists have gone to jail for gay rights? I'm not some anti-gay or anti-trans ideologue. I'm saying don't mutilate kids.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Abuse children. Now, is this your only son you have?
No, he has a twin brother, Jude. I named him after the brothers of Jesus, James and Jude.
So he has a twin. Mm-hmm. And is it only this one going through?
Only this one.
Why? Do you have any reason? Like any kind of?
You know, man, I get asked this a lot. All I can tell you, I don't know. I don't know her motivations, right? But I do know this. She did this with her daughters. She picks a winner child and a loser child. And Jude has been picked as the loser child.
It's a shame.
Okay? Yeah, she didn't teach James how to tie his shoes. She told him it was too stupid to tie his shoes. She didn't teach him how to use a knife and fork so that James would be like the superstar at the table when he ate. I mean, she just did all kinds of things. This is the woman did this with her daughters. When we were married, I had to really put my foot down and put a stop to it.
Now, how hard has it been getting Greg Abbott involved?
Insanely hard, right? So what I've consistently said is, why do we have to work this hard to get our elected Republicans to protect children? Greg Abbott has basically decided that he's not going to pass any legislation in Texas regarding this.
I mean, even the special session that he's called, he's got a legislation for dog leashing in the state of Texas in this third special session, but he won't put up anything about gender mutilation.
No, he won't. He'll let kids be mutilated.
Yep.
And you know what it comes down to is I think it's shocking for a lot of people to understand this, but you know, so go check out this article at the Federalist. Who are the rich white men funding the transgender movement? Okay. Just Google that.
Okay.
And what you're going to discover is that the entire transgender movement is funded by Republicans. That's the sickening fact of this. Paul Singer, who is, I believe, the largest donor, now that Adelson has passed away, I believe Paul Singer is the largest donor to the Republican Party. He's a hedge fund billionaire. He founded the Human Rights Campaign, which is the largest and most powerful LGBT lobbying organization in the world. It's the one that got the State Department to fly the pride flag in every country. A guy he's a Republican, and he's a big donor to Abbott. James Pritzker, he now goes by Jennifer Pritzker, is a very ugly cross-dressing man in a dress. And this sumbitch is the guy who's funding the child transgender movement. And he's a Republican. I think he's the third largest donor to the Republican Party. So the entire transgender movement is being funded by Republicans. And a lot of Republicans don't understand this, that the donor class of the Republican Party is completely opposed to the values of the base voters of the Republican Party. And what we need to decide is, do we want their money, or would we rather be poor and go after our own values? But guys like Paul Singer and James Pritzker need to be booted from this party. And they have an inordinate influence over guys like Governor Abbott who take their money.
Yeah. And, I've done a couple of videos on Greg Abbott today just alone because of everything that he's doing just as a governor that is insane. But to see that, like, obviously he's portrayed as this big conservative, big Republican, but that as a taxpayer of the state of Texas, as a voter of the state of Texas, that you can't get him to back you at all should be alarming to every voter
any
in the state
issue.
of Texas.
Like, I mean, literally on any issue across the board. Here's something that I find fascinating. So, the former chairman of the Republican Party, James Dickey, who was instrumental in many ways in maintaining the Abbott agenda.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was a great fundraiser for the Republican Party.
He was an excellent fundraiser.
Yeah, but so I always considered between him and West, it was an on-balance question. And on balance, I thought we needed more ideological conservative leadership. And apparently everybody agreed with me on that, agreed with us, you and me on that. So James Dickey he had a whole program set up for bail reform, criminal justice reform, prison reform. All that stuff got passed in the general session. And almost none of the Republican priorities got passed.
None.
That tells you that there's a massive disconnect between the establishment. Well, you call it the establishment, we ought to call it the uniparty, because it's really something that sits inside the Republican and the Democratic Party. That's why they put Democratic Party chairs on our committees in the legislature.
Right.
It's a uniparty that runs the state, and they run it for their benefit, and we're supposed to pay for it with our tax dollars.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand like the whole process of the GOP in particular, of how we come about with setting our priorities. First, it starts off at the county level, where you have all your county meetings, and then it goes into your precinct, and then it goes into your state level. Right. And then from there, they gather all of that up, and then they send that to the governor to send a list of priorities that, hey, this is what the voters, what the precinct, what the counties are all saying that they want to pass. And he passed only 2 of 10 of them in the state of Texas and ignored the rest of them, of which I think the transgender was part of it.
Yeah, number 3 is a number 3 priority. And he frankly, he ignored election integrity. I mean, he didn't do anything during the regular session to get that passed.
No.
It was fear that caused him to put it into the special session. And then even that was watered down. If you look at the amendments to it, it's all watered down now. And we should ask ourselves why that is. Well, again, the dirty secret here is the Republican establishment in Texas has been fixing elections in primaries, just like Democrats have been doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you took it, Jennifer Fleck, you look what happened in Dallas County.
Yeah.
Dallas County, every single Republican from dog catcher all the way up to the 5th Appeals Court, every single one of them lost their seat. Bullpucky. That is balderdash. That was
Wait, all of them did?
Every single one of them. Felicia Piter fixed all those elections in Dallas County.
Well, they do it to themselves here too. So, like, I'm in, I think it's the District 3 up here in Northeast Texas, and when we were voting to replace Ratcliffe when he got tapped to be the DNI for Trump, we actually had a guy, and we had the votes to put in the mayor of Atlanta, Texas. And it caught wind of Abbott and those guys, and they disqualified me as a precinct chair and my other precinct chairs of our counties around us from voting in the special session that we had to have to vote for that, which put Pat Fallon in place because he was the establishment, and he didn't even live in our district. And now he's our representative that doesn't live in our district.
That doesn't
classic. That's classic. That's classic. Yeah, they're fixing elections here, and a lot of Republicans. This is look. Let me share with you one of my frustrations. I talk to a lot of Republican groups all the time. Right. Just 2 weeks ago, I spoke at a big one up in Frisco. Look, Republicans are in just complete denial.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear him talk about, you know, this is illegal under the Texas Constitution. This is unconstitutional under the U.S. Constitution. I mean, where have you been? We haven't lived under the U.S. Constitution for what, 120 years, 130 years now?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, the government has been completely unconstrained by the Constitution for over a century. And you people are still telling me that we need to make constitutional arguments? I mean, the government's not going to be stopped by constitutional arguments, okay? Same in Texas. Same in Texas. Yeah. So that was one of the big differences this session. Okay. It only took me one session, the session before this one, to learn that. Okay. This session, I said, okay, I'm not looking for the means of persuasion anymore. I'm looking for the means of coercion. And when I look at let me give you an example. I won't tell you who it was, but it was a representative that refused to get on board with my bills in the Senate and in the House. So I looked up his donors. Well, it turns out that there's a big bank that's a donor to him. And in fact, he sits on the board of this bank. So I went in there and talked to the president of that bank, a local bank, not too far from where I live. And I said, listen, you need to pull all your money from this guy. You need to ask for your money back because he defrauded you. You gave it to him because he was a conservative, but he's not. And the guy said, well, I want you to get out of my bank and don't come back and all stuff. I said, let me tell you what's about to happen. I'm going to put 60 people outside your bank. I've already printed up flyers with your face on a rancher castrating a bull saying this is what the president of this bank does to little boys. And I'm going to give them a list of banks right near here where that your depositors can take their money. And I did it.
Good.
Good for you.
All right. I'm not looking for the means of persuasion. This is a moral issue that we don't need to persuade anybody on.
Yeah.
Okay. So the same thing, I took the same approach to everybody I dealt with. Here, let me tell you something shocking. So I've been told, I don't know, you probably heard this. We lose all these bills in the calendar committee, right? And everybody says, well, the Democrats tagged those bills and they were able to delay them. So I'm sitting in Representative Slayton's office one day and I said, anybody got the rule book for the House? So I did something crazy. I just read the doggone thing. It's about 250 pages. Mm-hmm. There is nothing about tagging in the rules. Do you know that was a courtesy extended by the Republican chair of the calendar committee to the Democrats? There's no such thing as tagging. All these bills that we have lost, that they have explained away, the Democrats tagged it. We couldn't do anything. So when I exposed that and I put 100 people in the room with the calendar committee and everybody said, why aren't you motioning to pass this bill? Because any member can motion to pass it. And they didn't pass it for a month and let it pass by and let my bills die. Everybody knows Dustin Burrows did that. Now, that hasn't been known before. So I got a primary opponent for Dustin Burrows. I'm going to take his ass out. Okay? I'm not looking to play games with these people. I'm not looking to persuade them. And I really need Republicans to start thinking that way.
Yeah. You know, that's been like, so I speak out pretty heavily against Greg Abbott on TikTok, and
just a little bit.
And I rail him pretty good as much as I can. And so, like, the biggest thing is, like, when I first started speaking out against him, is you just have your voters that are Republican voters, and you know, you get the excuse of, oh, Trump endorsed him, and so that okay. So when do we care about endorsements, first of all? But then as soon as I started, like,
when it's Trump, I guess.
Yeah. And so then when I started really bringing up policies and showing factual stuff about, you know, things that he's not a Republican or even a conservative at all, I started getting, you know, your death threats. You know, you're not a Texan. I'm going to escort you out of Texas type of deal. And to me, that, you know, that doesn't scare the hell out of me at all. I just get even more fired up and get even more stronger at railing on Hot Wheels as best as I can. And so the thing is we have a lot of Republicans in the state of Texas that are asleep and just think that it's either Abbott or Beto. And that's all I say. And I was arguing with somebody today on my post. And because I explained how Abbott even came up through the rankings of the Texas Republican Party.
Yeah, that video that you made about him today floored me.
Yeah.
I had no clue that he tried to put a cap on it.
No, not tried. He did.
There
is a cap on there.
Blew my mind.
Yeah. And we'll make sure that there's not that cap won't get raised anymore for lawsuits that he got rich on and he gets $15,000 a month on for the rest of his life, on top of his $12,500 a month salary that he gets for being governor of Texas. But we just got a lot of missing, and that's the hardest part that I've had to like overcome on these things, is the fact that they are so hell-bent on it's either Abbott or Beto, not realizing that for the first time in Greg Abbott's entire career, political career, he's got primary opponents.
Yes.
That he's never had before, solid ones. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't know what kind of push you've been getting, because I'm sure you rail against Abbott as much as you can as well, but I don't know what kind of push you get against it.
Yeah, I've had some of the most, I'm aghast, man. I had a guy come up to me at one talk that I was giving, came up to me and said, who are you supporting for governor? I said, well, the first guy that supported my son in the legislature was Don Huffines. So that's why I'm supporting him. But actually, any of them would be good. Yeah. I said probably, my second pick would probably be Chad Prather, and then Alan West. They're all good. All of them will be 10 light years ahead of Abbott.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter which one of those guys wins. They're
right.
all better than Abbott. Yeah. I said, I'm supporting Huffines because I'm loyal to people that help my son. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
So he said, I don't know if he can win. And I said, what are you talking about? It's a primary. It's a primary. He said, but he's pulling votes away from Abbott, and that could let the Democrats win. I said, dude, it's a primary.
They don't understand it.
This is a precinct chair in Denton County.
Because they don't vote in the primary, so they don't understand.
They don't understand what it is. So just like,
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, just like all of the SREC members who were telling me about tagging bills in the calendar committee, all these people talking about the primaries, these people don't know anything about the rules, okay? They don't know anything about how this stuff works. And the Democrats, have to be laughing at this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to be laughing at this stuff. So one of the problems we have is like people just don't understand the Republican Party truly is run by the grassroots. Democratic Party is run from the top down. The Democratic Party is run like a fascist corporate dictatorship.
Absolutely.
And the Republican Party is a democracy.
Supposed to be.
Yeah. And it's just like unreal how people don't understand the power of, here's a precinct chair who's completely unable to use his power because he doesn't even understand the system. And these precinct chairs determine the party in this state.
Yes.
And I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And so we have a huge problem with normie conservative. I call them normies.
Okay.
You say they're asleep, and I say, well, they still haven't taken the red pill, right? I mean, these guys haven't gotten cynical enough to take that red pill, wake up in that pod, and get flushed down the toilet so we can pick them up out of the sewer like in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Well,
and some of them are just true Trumpies, where it's a Trump or nothing type of deal. And, and that's why they're the conservative, because they don't understand the whole principle behind being an actual conservative. And so, I get called fake conservative because I speak out against Greg Abbott. It's whatever for me. But, I only call them asleep just because they just don't know what they don't know. And so
that's there's no excuse. You're much kinder than I am.
Because the information is readily available to you.
Easily available.
Lazy as Americans. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, man, look, it's like I used to tell my kids, and my kids still don't believe this, but I'm like, in my day, I grew up on a farm and a ranch up in the Panhandle, right? 26 miles outside of Plainview, Texas. My nearest neighbor is 5 miles away.
Yeah.
And 6 families used the same phone line. We used the party line. So we didn't get to use the phone, boys. I tell them we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have this stuff, right? And when I needed to go to school, I walked 3 miles on a dirt road with hip waders in the mud when it rained to an asphalt road and went to school every day. Walked 6 miles every day to go to school. And my kids, I know they don't believe it. But, we have these things called libraries.
They don't believe that cell phones never existed.
No. And we had to do this thing called libraries, right? Where if you wanted to know something, you had to walk your ass 15 miles to something called a library. And in a library, they had books. And if they didn't have the book you wanted, then you had to request it from another library. And you might have to wait 4 months to get that book. Okay? That's what it took to learn something back then, right? But now you can just get your butt on Google and you can find all this out. So there's no excuse for these normie conservatives.
Right.
No.
Now, where's your the ex-wife from?
She was born in France, raised in Hawaii, and she's lived in Texas for about half her life.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to get a little bit of background. Now, where does the case stand now?
That's what I was going to ask, like where you guys are currently.
So I've gotten pissed off. I've realized that all my attorneys have actually been working with the judges.
FOC,
So
man. Well,
let me give you an example.
With FOC, you can go from being a judge back to a lawyer, back to a judge,
Correct.
all within the same year.
Correct.
You can't do that in any other courses. So.
Let me give you an example. So the memorandum order from my 2019 trial floored there were like 20 some odd lawyers in the room when the verdict was passed, because when the verdict was read, the judgment was read, I should say, because it was a big case in this state. Okay. So there were tons of lawyers present. 3 of them dropped their pens when she read the first paragraph of her judgment, because it is a learned disquisition on the 14th Amendment limitations of family court involving themselves in family decisions, and how the courts have no basis to enter into those decisions. Do you know that my lawyer and the opposing counsel colluded to keep that out of the final order, because it would have limited the ability in future cases for the court to intervene in children's lives against the parents' wishes? The bar is as corrupt as the establishment is. Never forget, the bar is part of the establishment.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I don't know. I always recommend that if people can stay out of FOC, stay the hell.
No doubt. No doubt. So what I did is I fired my lawyers. I'm self-represented, and I was self-represented for most of the 2019 trial, and everything I won was when I was self-represented, because the lawyers are basically trying to protect the judges and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll give you another example. So the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure say that if a judge's spouse is a fact witness in a case, the judge has to recuse herself. Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So some protesters, some Save James advocates, led a protest in front of the judge's house, Bloody Mary Brown's house over in University Park. So the opposing counsel, Jessica Janicek, at Coons Fuller, changed her pleadings and said that, well, Mr. Younger led a protest, even though I didn't, led a protest in front of the judge's house, and that constituted attempting what's called an ex parte communication with the judge. That means I was trying to communicate with the judge without another attorney present, and that is a serious issue. You're not supposed to do that, right?
Right.
You can get your pleading struck for doing that. It's pretty serious. So, well, unfortunately, her husband during the protest came out and screamed and cussed and flipped the finger and even engaged the protesters in conversation. Wow. That made her husband a fact witness into something that was alleged in the pleadings. So Judge Mary Brown should have recused herself, but she won't. She won't recuse herself. So it shows you how corrupt this whole thing is.
So what can you do about this going forward?
So there's a lot of stuff going on. So here's the current stats. I don't have my kids. I'm under. So the judge abused the emergency orders from the Texas Supreme Court. A lot of people don't know this. Listen to this.
They have proof that even before the divorce, because we had a question, even before the divorce, they know that this was going on, right?
Yes, they've known this is going on for I don't know how long. I mean, it's been going on since before she filed for divorce.
Right, because it started when he was 2.
They know all about this, yeah. So people don't know this. The Texas Supreme Court issued emergency orders during the COVID lockdown, okay? It changed a lot of the court procedures that we live under right now. This Texas Supreme Court has not lifted those emergency orders. Emergency order number 40 allows any court to change the deadlines for anything listed in the rules of civil procedure. So listen to what my judge did. They got a temporary restraining order against me based on what this counselor was saying. My kids were afraid of me. And a temporary restraining order under the rules of civil procedure can last only 14 days before an evidentiary hearing. Absent an evidentiary hearing, they expire. Okay? Yes. And the reason is no one's been able to give evidence against it. That's why it's ex parte, right? It's only on the word of one party, right? Okay. But because of emergency rule number 40 from the Texas Supreme Court, the judge said, well, this restraining order will be in effect until my memorandum order is entered formally as an order. And opposing counsel, Jessica Janicek, is to write up that order and submit it. So guess what Jessica Janicek decided? I'll never submit the order. I'll never write it up, and I'll never submit it. So now I can't travel out of the country. I have an office in Serbia for my business. I can't travel there now. It's threatened a multi-million-dollar deal I'm working on. I can't possess a firearm. All this stuff I can't do because I'm under this restraining order that's been unconstitutionally extended because the Supreme Court hasn't lifted its emergency orders yet.
So you literally can do nothing right now.
Pretty much. Well, I've got to get those orders entered. So I'm doing my own motion to enter. I'm going to try to do it. Then I got to do that. Then the counselor filed a non-party motion saying that she doesn't want to give me the counseling records for my son, but she wants to give all the other parties the counseling records. So I won't be able to know what's in the records.
Hell?
I know. Violating all the principles of fair trial, adversarial evidence, the right to confront evidence, all this stuff is implicated in this. And so I have to file a motion to deny on that to preserve the record on appeal because this judge is obviously going to rule against me. And then I have to go up on mandamus to defeat the gag order. Once I defeat the gag order, I can go back and try to modify the temporary orders that she put me under because you can't appeal temporary orders.
Now, does your gag order prevent you from filing motions?
No, it doesn't. They can't do that. There's no way.
No, they can. There is a way that they can. There was a case when
you can. Yeah, you can be declared a vexatious litigant. Yeah.
Yeah, there was like another guy that this happened to because I fell down a rabbit hole with this, and I was like, I always knew that dads were kind of treated like second-class citizens and FOC for the most part, but I never really saw like how truly horrendous.
Look, the Texas Attorney General has done studies on this, and they report these statistics, and he's been asked this in meetings many times. 90% in divorces, 90% of the time, the fathers lose custody of their kids. 90% of the time. So we have to ask ourselves this question, right? Why do the courts believe that 90% of fathers don't deserve equal time for children?
No idea. Sorry about that.
That makes absolutely no sense, right? So there's definitely corruption. So we should ask ourselves what drives that. So when I went to Washington, D.C., and I talked to the federal delegation up there, I found out what it was. It's a federal program called Title 4D.
Okay.
Listen to this one. This is a classic. Put in place by Jimmy Carter. Worst president probably we've ever had. Right up there with Wilson and FDR. Okay.
And Biden.
Yeah, and Biden.
Biden's giving them all a rough.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. So Title 4D gives 66 cents on the dollar to the states for the collection of child support.
Yes.
So here's the deal.
Because I watched this documentary called Divorce Corp where it broke down
That's
how
right.
much money was really going in and out of FOC.
The entire Texas Attorney General's office is funded from those reimbursements from the federal government for the payment of child support. So the state has a massive financial interest in assigning the maximum amount of child support that it can.
Yep.
Do you know that the Judicial Retirement Fund is funded from Title 4D reimbursements? The more child support a judge issues, the more retirement they get. Did you know that the Texas Attorney General gives quotas to courts saying they must assign a certain amount of child support? That's why you can never get your child support reduced, because it comes out of the court's quota and it reduces the retirement benefits for the judges. So they have this massive financial interest, and it's $750 million in Texas alone.
Wow. So have you gotten any help from like a Dan Patrick or a Ken Paxton, the Attorney General?
Ken Paxton has told me he's constitutionally limited. He can't do anything for me.
Go figure.
Um,
Says the man under indictment, federal indictment.
Dan Patrick killed all my bills, not this session, but the session before. Straight up lied to a senator who I won't name. He doesn't want me to talk about this, but straight up lied to one of the senators. Literally waited till he went to the bathroom, and then he passed the bill before he got back to avoid him offering an amendment. Dade Phelan has done nothing. Dade Phelan has 100% approval rating from the Human Rights Campaign, the largest LGBT lobby group in the world. I have faced down the entire establishment in Texas, the Texas Psychology Association, the American Pediatrics Association, the American Endocrine Association, the Texas Psychiatric Association, and 2 district courts.
And
not
a
single conservative foundation has stepped up to help me.
Wow.
Not even like a Catholic organization.
They don't enter family court. None of the conservative organizations will enter family court for any reason.
That's the one place that they need to get their ass.
You are correct. How do we get gay marriage? Like, people forget this. We won the debate on gay marriage. Gay marriage was brought up for a vote in 48 states and voted down in all 48 states. It was voted down twice in California, with a plurality of gay people voting against it. Even gays didn't want gay marriage.
Right.
We got gay marriage out of family court. They got a court in California to do one thing and a court in Georgia to do another. They got the district courts to disagree, and then it went up to the Supreme Court, and they imposed it on us. Okay? They are in family court all day, every day, and they want to make law. And they're going to, because our guys aren't there.
Yeah. Family court,
that's true across the board. Let me ask you a question.
Everywhere. Family court is so disturbing. Even
it's
my
horrendous.
Experience was with that. I was just mind blown. I mean,
it's so corrupt. It's beyond belief. I mean, it's something that you have to really imagine something like North Korea. Like, these courts are run that badly.
Yeah,
they're really that bad.
Yeah.
But consider this.
They do not care what happens to your child. As long as you keep, and the more that you guys that the parents are fighting, they love that.
They love that. It's all money for them.
In and out. More money, more money, more money. Keep them fighting.
That's right. That's why they always give the children to the abuser, because they know the normal parent will keep fighting.
Yes, I will agree with you on that one. That when it comes down to those things, I've seen it happen over and over and over.
It's consistent. They always give the children to the abuser.
Like, the good parent is gonna fight and spend all the money to go in and out
Correct.
to make that kid the best. Yeah,
that's how it works. There's no doubt that that's how it works.
Yeah, they did it. They did it with my son, with his biological, kept sending him back even though there was abuse going on.
Yes.
But it was, we'll do therapy, then we'll do this, then we'll do
this. They love to order that therapy.
Then we'll do supervised visits, and then he can do this. And I'm just like, are you kidding me right now?
Listen to this one. You gotta love this one. So this is what happens when you don't have a lawyer and you can actually get the truth out, and you're not working with these people. You're working against them instead of working with them. So there's an organization called Forensic Counseling Services in Dallas County, and that was the supervised visitation people that I was supposed to go to see my kids.
Yeah,
it costs me $600 every time I visit my kids, and I can visit them 3 times a month. $600.
Yeah, they leave that part out, that you have to pay the place.
You have to pay for it.
Yes.
All right. So I emailed them and said, hey, I got a few questions before I sign your agreement, and. First of all, me and my boys, we're a boxing family. James is a very talented boxer. Are we going to be able to box, during our sessions? And they said, well, we never had a question like that. Maybe you could do boxing, but we can't have anybody hitting each other or anything during the sessions. And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of what boys do.
That leaves boxing out then.
You feminine dumbass.
Yeah.
That's what boys do. So anyway, he sends that back to me. And then I asked him another round of questions. I said, listen, Miss Georgilis, my ex-wife, Ann Georgilis, she's a pediatrician in Capel. I said, hey, yeah, she's a pediatrician. Oh, yeah. So I've been facing down the doctors too. Oh, yeah, big time. So
I just have lost all faith in the medical field anymore. Between your story.
They're all liars. They're all
a
liars.
pediatrician thinks that it's a brilliant idea.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, they're all liars. What you find out is when you look at medical doctors and psychologists, the highest incidence of child abuse is among psychologists and doctors, highest incidence of drug use, highest incidence of alcoholism, and highest incidence of suicide. Yeah. The only people that outrank medical doctors and psychologists in suicide are dentists. Anyway, so I asked this guy, hey, she's going to bring my son to these supervised counseling visits in a dress. Are you going to allow me to change him into boys' clothes? Which is, and he said, no, we won't let you do that. And I said, okay, well, can I pray with my sons? And can I teach my sons traditional Christian teachings on sexuality and gender during our sessions? And he said, well, that'll be left up to the rules that we have for all other activities, which basically says you can't do anything that the custodial parent wouldn't like. So my ex-wife would be able to say, no, you can't pray those prayers. No, you can't teach them that. It'd be up to her to decide that. And finally, I asked them, look, will your counselor that's supervising these visits, the psychologist, will he use male pronouns for my son and his legal name, James? And they said, well, we can't answer that question right now. So I wrote him back and said, well, I know the court's ordered me to use your services. I'm supposed to sign up for your services by the 15th of September, but I want to let you know I'm going to violate the court order. I'm not signing up for your services because no court in the state of Texas can order me to participate in the abuse of my own son. Right. And it appears to me that you are going to force me to participate in abuse. And I won't participate in your child abuse counseling of my son.
So your son is now 9, correct?
Yes.
Has any judge or lawyer asked your son what he wants?
So during the visits that my son went to Dr. Susan Fletcher, the one who went crazy and said my sons are afraid of me.
Right.
My sons told her 4 times. James told her he wants to be a boy and he wants to go to school as a boy this year. He's consistently said that.
That's documented.
He said that to the amicus attorney during the 2019 trial. I've got video of him saying it over and over again, unsolicited from me, just talking to other kids on video. So yeah, he said it over and over and over again. So why are the courts pushing my son to have his dick and balls cut off?
Right.
Because Judge Bloody Mary Brown is a child abuser. Because Ann Georgelis is abusing my son. Because this entire system is so corrupt that it wants to kill my son.
What can we do? What can any of us do anything that would be helpful for you or
look, so first of all, go to the Save James Facebook page and we give updates there. I mean, I don't run it because it could be shut down. It's run by volunteers.
Okay.
But they'll post updates there about my trial. So whenever I come up on a hearing or a trial, it's going to be streamed online on YouTube, right?
Okay.
It tremendously helps to have court watchers.
Okay.
Because it turns out judges don't like to commit felonies. Yes. Judges don't like to commit felonies on the bench when people are watching. And family courts are very much used to operating in secret. So court watching is one of the most important things you can do. And this next one is going to sound very strange. You probably didn't expect to hear this from me. But a lot of people talk about jury duty. Mm-hmm. We need to stop saying that as conservatives. We have jury rights. That's a jury right. That's not a jury duty.
I've been wanting jury duty. I never did it.
Jury right.
I would love it.
Yes.
I
want to be on jury.
But you can go down to the county where they hold trials at your county courthouse and volunteer any day that you want to sit on a jury.
What?
And if you do, they'll give you donuts and coffee. They'll be so grateful to you because everybody tries to get out of it and you're coming down there and you're using your rights. Why is it a jury right? The jury system was created specifically to check the power of kings. Mm-hmm. It's the last check. In order for the king's law to harm a citizen, a jury of his peers has to determine that it's the right thing to do. Yep. You can make a huge difference serving on a jury.
Yes.
more people and more conservatives we need to have conservatives, instead of getting on Facebook all day, get your butt on Facebook, but do it sitting in a jury room.
Yeah, I had no idea that you could just volunteer.
I didn't know you could volunteer either.
Jury duty.
Oh man, they're desperate. I mean, I was in a situation one time where they had sent bailiffs out on the street to literally pull people off the street and make them serve jury because they didn't have enough people. And they can do that.
I think that's an amazing privilege.
It's an amazing privilege that a lot of people don't understand this. Only in the Anglosphere do you have jury trials. So I lived in Germany. I've lived in France. I've lived in Hong Kong. You don't have jury trials in any of those countries.
Huh.
Nobody has jury trials except English colonies. Nobody else has juries. So like in France, it's always a tribunal of judges, and it's an odd number, so they can never tie. Okay? Nobody gets a jury trial in France. They issue the death penalty with no jury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? The second thing is to know that Texas is the only state in the union that allows juries to decide conservator rights in divorce trials. In every other state in the union, that's decided solely by one judge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in Texas, only a jury can decide that. So you can make a massive difference serving on juries, and you can protect the rights of children, the rights of fathers, the rights of all parents by being a good juror in court.
On your page, on the page of Save James, do they post like where there's going to be any type of protest? Because you got some local people here that have been saying, "Hey, we want to come help."
Absolutely, you can go there. You can contact the admins on how you can contact the admins for a page.
Yeah,
you can contact them, tell them that you want to start a protest or you want to start a group to stop this, and they can hook you up with hundreds of people who will support you, who've already done that, and get you going.
Okay. Are you guys only based in Texas, or is this open for other states as well?
So I have a definite point of view on organizations in the conservative world. And so I told you about me being a libertarian when I was young. What I didn't tell you is that at one time I was a hardcore Marxist. And not only was I a Marxist, but I had a business when I was very young. Well, I would say very young and stupid. Where I was a bouncer, and I used to kick skinheads out of bars in Houston, Texas. That was my job. Skinheads would come into bars, ruin bars. I would just beat them up and throw them out until they didn't come back.
As you should have.
And people would pay me a lot of money. So one of the bars I worked at was an actual front for the Sandinistas. Remember those guys down in Nicaragua? They were Maoist guerrillas in Nicaragua, and Ronald Reagan fought them. So I got exposed to Marxism firsthand. These guys were all Antifa members way back before anybody had ever heard of that. Mm-hmm. And they have a whole theory around mass organizing people that works. It works extremely well. And it's time proven. And they have a theory about why on the right, we cannot mass organize. And
I would love to hear this.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that they're actually correct about that.
Right. Well, they obviously are, because
unless it's for Donald Trump at a Donald Trump rally.
Yeah. So
you get like millions of people in the streets overnight.
Yeah, they can.
Cities.
They can, and our guys don't do that, right?
Right.
So what I did was, when this all started happening to me, and I had to figure out how to organize. And I don't really think of myself as organizing a movement, but more like organizing people's thoughts about our current situation, and they'll do the right thing. That's a very right-wing way of thinking about it, right? A leftist wouldn't even think that way. Who cares what they think? They need to go do what I tell them to do, right? So what I decided is that we don't succeed through mass organizing. We succeed through swarming.
Okay.
So what we have is a loosely connected, unpredictable, highly motivated network of small organizations of most of them less than 50 people. And they swarm onto targets, and they decide what targets to swarm on, how they're going to attack them, what they're going to do. And it's totally unpredictable because even I don't know what they're going to do. Nobody in the entire organization knows exactly what's going to happen. Okay. And so it's been highly effective, this idea of swarming. And so what I've tried to do is build communication protocols between groups, not build a group.
Right.
We already have tons of grassroots groups. Why would I build another one? So I've tried to build extensive relationships and communication between these groups so they can coordinate their activities. That's how we're going to beat these bastards, right?
We have to start joining movements.
Yeah, every Marine loves a guy named Chesty Puller. Okay, if you go into any Marine barracks, there's always a portrait of Chesty Puller. He's a Marine's Marine. He was a China Marine. He fought in Haiti in the 20s. He fought Sandino from the Sandinistas in the 30s in Nicaragua. He is the guy that essentially won World War II for us in the Pacific Theater, and he was the guy that led the Inchon invasion of Korea. Like, he's an unbelievable guy. Promoted up from private, never went to college, became one of the highest ranked, most respected officers in the Marine Corps. And when he was surrounded in Korea, one of the problems in the Korean War was the Chinese were very good at evading U.S. attacks. And it was very frustrating to American forces that we couldn't pin them down into a battle because we had superior weaponry. We could win, right? So eventually Chesty Puller in the Chosin Reservoir campaign got surrounded. And he had 30,000 men surrounded by 100,000 Chinese, outnumbered 3-1. Completely surrounded, 100% surrounded. So he gathered his staff together and he said, well, bad news is we're surrounded, but the good news is the sons of bitches aren't going to get away this time. And that's the attitude we have to have.
Yeah.
We have to have this attitude that they're all around us, and that means that they can't get away from us.
I like that.
We're not locked in the room with them. They're locked in the room with us. And we have to start looking for the means of coercion. And these groups have done that. They've been very effective at it. Mass resistance, for example, although they're classed as a hate group by the Anti-Defamation League, well, what effective conservative organization isn't classified as a hate group by these guys? But they are the only street game that we have in the conservative movements, right? And they have successfully defeated all kinds of gay initiatives in California and so forth with that street game. So I'm constantly communicating with them, telling them what other groups are doing. All we need to do is get all these groups to swarm unpredictably of their own accord onto targets of opportunity, and we will kick these people's asses up and down the street.
I'm absolutely game for that.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to kids, like, kids are off limits. And
they're off limits.
It doesn't matter your political affiliation.
This is the thing. This is what I keep telling Republicans. Like, a lot of Republicans, you know, this. Have you ever heard of a book called The Authoritarian Personality?
No.
Oh man, that's a must read for conservatives. It's a book written by Frankfurt School scholars, a couple of them. And these were hardcore Marxists, cultural Marxists. And they analyzed the psychological dispositions of people on the right. And they come up with ways to subvert political movements based on their psychological dispositions. And that's what's been used against us for years. So one of those dispositions is we just like to get along. We really value social order. We like orderly societies.
Yeah.
So we'll tolerate, the left infringing on our rights a little bit in order to maintain social order. And they use that to keep us from acting all the time. So I'm constantly telling conservatives, like, this is it. Yeah. Like, they pushed you as far as you can go because this is the hill to die on.
Yeah.
If they can cut the balls and penis off a 12-year-old boy,
yeah,
there's no limit to what they'll do to you after that.
No.
And the transgender issue is an issue of just plain reality, right? They're actually trying to enforce on other people what they have to say and believe about other people.
Yeah.
Forget what you think about the transgender issue. The idea that I have to change English grammar to accommodate somebody else's self-image.
Or people that have to walk away from their faith completely.
Bingo.
You can't ask people to do that. There's a lot of people who are very devout to their faith. And
absolutely. So, you think about these things. I'm sorry, but we have reached the issue. This is the hill to die on.
Yes.
This is it. Because once you lose this one, the next step is they're trying to normalize pedophilia in California right now. That's going to go everywhere. It's over after this one.
Yeah.
So this is the one to stop. And you're going to have to be uncomfortable. You're going to have people are going to call you bad names. People call me bad names all the time.
Yeah.
They call me bad.
I'm a homophobe. The guy who went to jail for gay rights is homophobe, right? I'm a homophobe. I'm a transphobe, right? I've been called a racist. I've been called everything under the sun. I don't care. It doesn't bother me because the left. You have to understand when the left says these things, even they don't believe it.
Yeah.
It's just a means to shut you up. When you're called a racist or a homophobe or a transphobe, all it means is shut up and sit down. And all you have to do is say no. Hey, homophobe, no. Hey, racist, no. Because they're just telling you to shut up.
Right.
Tell them no and don't shut up.
Amen.
I like this. I like the swarming.
Dude, we have to get practical here. I'm sick and tired of all this constitutional argumentation. We're not going to make constitutional arguments and argue our way out of this crap. We're going to have to use force. And right now, that means using political force to get out of this.
Yeah.
What this is a civil war. It's a struggle for control of the state and the country. And right now, it's a Cold War, meaning that we're using political means to achieve dominance. We're not using kinetic means. We want it to stay that way, but if it's going to stay that way, our side needs to step up and win some damn political battles. And listen, I love my Trump people. I voted for Trump.
Oh yeah.
The election was definitely stolen from Trump. No question about it. All that stuff's true.
Yes.
But Trump did not use the power that he had when he had it. We can't allow that anymore.
No.
Yes.
Okay? When those generals lied to Trump and said, yes, we pulled our troops out of Syria, and they lied to him and they didn't, all he should have done is taken Marine One, landed at that helipad on the east side of the Pentagon, walked in there and relieved every one of those generals and taken away their retirement. And he said it should have just literally gone to the next guy and said, are you willing to obey my orders? No, you're relieved of duty and you don't get your retirement. Are you willing to follow my orders? You're relieved of duty. Oh, you are willing to follow my orders? Okay, I'm going to have a sergeant major check up on you in 30 days. And if those troops aren't out, I'm going to put you in the brig.
Right.
He had the power to do that, and he did not do it. And that's the kind of power we're going to have to elect people to use.
Yeah.
That's political power. And that is the only hope that we have to avoid kinetic action in this country.
100% agree. 1,000%.
I'll give you another example. We're all worried about now that Merrick Garland is going to send investigators down here from the Department of Justice to investigate whether people are filing lawsuits against abortion providers under our new laws, the heartbeat law. Well, have you guys ever read a book called 3 Felonies a Day by a federal prosecutor?
No, but it was gifted.
Everybody during their normal life commits on average about 3 felonies a day because the federal laws are so expansive and contradictory. By following one law, you break another. They're contradictory.
I believe it.
So, if you're a Texas prosecutor in Hale County or, one of these conservative counties up here in Denton County where I'm at, and some Department of Justice guys conduct an investigation, don't you think he's probably committing a felony under Texas law at some point while he's here?
Yeah.
Why aren't our guys charging their asses?
Oh,
I'll tell you what, that damn prosecutor in Georgetown that indicts every conservative Texas governor that leaves office, that's tried to get just about every conservative that's effective in this state, that son of a bitch indicts everybody over there, right? Where are our prosecutors doing that? Right, we need to exert force again. And here, let me tell you what happens. Look. I like Ken Paxton. He's assured me that he's on my side with my son, and he wants to do something about it. But he has a sense of modesty in government.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to read too expansively into the law. He wants to keep that conservative modesty and limited government. Listen, man. The time has come to use government power against our enemies. And if we don't do it, we're going to lose.
And I think to an extent that is something that Donald Trump has woken up a little bit because,
he has.
You do have, I myself am a big Chad Prather fan. And so.
Yeah, me too.
You have somebody like Chad Prather that's willing to step up, not speak the normal language, not speak, the conservative talk and the political talk and call it like it is. And to me, if it wasn't for a Donald Trump, I don't know if a Chad Prather would have been born in the political atmosphere. And and several others. Your Marjorie Taylor Greene, your Matt Gaetz, even.
You're right. Trump made it okay to talk about things we couldn't talk about before.
Yeah.
Like all
and that's the great, awesome thing. That will be the Trump legacy, is that he allowed us to talk about things we couldn't talk about before.
Yeah.
You know, the thing I like about Chad, though, man, you know, I've hung out with these guys, you know, all these powerful guys, you know, and every time I hang out with him, this quote from Montaigne comes to my head. You know, I think it's in his one. I forgot what the essay was. I think it was called On Honor. And this is a French guy that wrote back in the 1600s. And I learned French just because I wanted to read his essays because they were awesome. This guy, he has this wonderful quote. He says, "Upon the highest throne in the world, we are seated still upon our asses." You know, these are just normal guys with fancy clothes. You know, that's why I love guys like Chad Prather and Sid Miller.
And I think that like we need to pay attention to those people.
Yeah.
Like go to the most grassroots person.
100%
for everything. Like let's
absolute 100%. 100%.
Give it back to the people and be done with it.
No, is he going to be able to help you at all?
Let's be honest. Like, would you take your grandmother to have a conversation about concerns she has about the government? Talk to Abbott?
No.
I mean, Abbott wouldn't even be able to communicate with her, right? But not only would you be willing to take your grandmother to talk to somebody like Chad Prather, you'd be glad to take him because they're like, she'd be glad that you have friends like that.
Yeah. She'd fall in love with him.
She would. Yeah. I mean, he's the kind of guy. Look, it's really an issue. Like we don't think about this anymore, right? But like guys like Sam Houston that founded this state. I mean, these are guys that you went down to the pub, could have a beer with, and talk about practical crap like, how do you fix this issue with these cows tearing up the roads? You know, like he was a guy you could talk to about stuff like that.
And they really care.
These guys that are running, I mean, this guy from Maine that runs the Senate, Dan Patrick, Texan, he's about as Texan as a Massachusetts fag. But anyway.
Oh my God.
I mean, this guy.
It's true.
This
we
guy.
Have his opponent coming on the.
What kind of conversation could you have about practical Texas issues?
His opponent.
Yeah, we have his opponent coming on here in a couple weeks.
That's awesome.
Aaron Solers.
But you talk to Sid Miller. I talked to Sid Miller about regulating gas pumps. I talked to him about how, some of the rules on regulating water runoff. Issues with moving tractors around on public roads. I mean, he's actually moved tractors on public roads.
Yeah.
Okay. He's driven a pickup down dirt roads with that all they got is caliche and they don't have asphalt. Like these are people that you could talk about like real stuff you got to solve, right? Mm-hmm. And because of that practical experience, they don't put on airs. They don't have fancy educations. They're just Texas people who care and love their state. These are people you can count on.
And that's why I've been saying for the longest time, we just got to, we've held politicians like way up high. We got to bring them back down to the people.
Oh, yeah,
at the end of the day. And so,
dude, Ivy League education ought to disqualify you for office in Texas. If you got an Ivy League education, you shouldn't even be able to run for office in this state.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can't pass a basic marksmanship exam, who the hell are you running for anything in this state?
Yeah.
I mean, we just need to get practical.
Yeah.
So we had Gene Ho on here, which a couple weeks ago, he was Trump's official campaign photographer, and he's running for mayor of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to be their mayor. And one of the things he's discussed that he's going to do is put a bench out on the courthouse steps.
That's his office.
And that be his office, and he's going to hold quorum there for people.
I love it. I'm just so I love it. I love it. I'm so tired of.
What he said, he carved him of a bench.
Yeah.
I'm just so tired of these like Northeastern liberal values seeping their way into the Texas elite.
Absolutely.
It just drives me crazy. I don't know how, I mean, I may have used that offensive word from Massachusetts, but like, I don't know how else to describe the disgust that I feel about these values that are creeping down here, and they're not, think about this. Like if you walk out into any farming territory in Texas, and agriculture is the largest business in the state still, right? You walk out and talk to farmers, man, they have their head screwed on straight. They're looking for stability. They're not looking for handouts. They want to compete. all these kinds of things. They have real practical ideas about how to do these things. And you will get better ideas from a corn farmer than you'll get from the governor of the state of Texas.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
All day long. So
that's why I like Dwayne Stovall. You know, Dwayne Stovall, when he was running against Cornyn, the reason I liked him is he runs a construction business.
Well, anything's better than Cornyn.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that guy keeps, another thing, like, why does that guy keep winning?
Well, a lot of, yeah. I mean, we can probably go on and on all night for this one because it drives me insane that they keep winning.
You know, here's my theory on it, and it's probably not going to be popular. Probably not going to be popular. Probably going to get a lot of hate mail on this one.
It's all right.
Worse than the Massachusetts comment. I think a lot of it has to do with the women vote. And you look at Abbott. Abbott tracks Abbott tracks exactly one poll number. What the soccer moms think. That's all he tracks. And he's gotten reelected time and time and time again over that.
But I was just he's gotten easy elections, though. Go ahead. He's gotten easy elections because he never has a primary, and the Democrats have not been smart at all at putting anybody up for the general. I mean, Luby Gomez, the sheriff.
You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, you gotta be kidding
me. And so you're right. I mean, between the two of those.
And what is it that Beto had? What did Beto get?
Like the soccer mom vote.
Yeah, that Beto got the soccer mom vote. That's why he almost booted Cruz.
Yeah,
he got the female vote. He's a young, attractive guy.
Soccer vote counts, man.
It does. It does.
Unfortunately, soccer moms are fucking idiots. So that's
this is.
I mean, like, no offense. I'm talking about
full offense.
I thought I was going to get in trouble with the Massachusetts comment. And look at you now. You're right there with me.
I have a strong.
They're going to put us down in the jail now.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my question too. Is like, this soccer mom vote.
I know.
We have all of these Republican women's clubs. Okay.
Yeah.
They're super powerful in Denton County where I live, right? Super powerful. Their only job is to evangelize to female voters. And I think we have to conclude that they failed. They have failed us.
Yeah.
They are not evangelizing conservative.
They're picking soccer moms.
Bingo.
Soccer moms can't get that job done. Like, that's when you need to put me in, coach.
I'm in. Kit Kat, you're in.
Who to vote for.
You're in.
I'm here for it.
But I'm just sick of it. And I'm so sick of the way that we can't talk about these issues.
Right.
To talk about the female vote and how it skews left, man.
No, I mean, it does. Well, because it's always that way, though, with the left, right? Like, whoever they're pandering to, whatever group they're pandering to is like the group that they hate, guys.
So I know, and I'm so sick. I'm so sick of us not being able to discuss it, and we found a great link in the Republican Party.
Thing that can't be held accountable for my damn actions because I have boobs. Like,
I know.
I can't be held accountable. Oh my god! Like, are you kidding me right now?
I know.
And
it's a question of moral agency. So I'm just like, I'm constantly telling Republican women, you've got to step up. You've got to step up, and you've got to evangelize these women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your job. That's the only reason we have these Republican women's clubs. That's their job.
Right.
And it's not to evangelize liberal women into the Republican Party to change the Republican Party to a more liberal position. No. It's to get women to vote conservative.
Yeah.
But to also, like, I don't like it. Like, don't just follow the vote because it's Republican or it's this. Like, just because you're a woman, go and do the damn research. Go and look it up because you're like the mama bear. These are your kids. These are, this is everything. And all they're focused on is pandering.
You're right. I like Mike the gay cowboy. Mike the gay cowboy is the man. He's right.
I love Mike the gay cowboy.
So are you saying I'm not in trouble for my Massachusetts comment?
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, he's definitely on board with you.
Thank you.
Well, Jeff, we do appreciate you coming on. If anybody reaches out to me and asks for your email, am I allowed to give it out?
Yeah, man, I trust your judgment. It's all good. So one of the things about me that I've been criticized for in court over and over again, I believe in completely open process. If you want to know anything about me, all the filings are public. You can find out anything bad I've ever done is in there. Anything bad anybody ever thought I did that I didn't do is in there, and everything I ever thought about doing that was bad is in there. So it's all in there. So I'm completely public about everything. The court hates that, and that means I should do a lot more of it.
Absolutely.
And then, guys, the scrolling thing here is the Facebook page. So everybody,
and then his own website address.
Man, I've really enjoyed talking to you all.
Yeah, and if we can do anything, if you have
things go, we can have you on again.
Anytime.
Yeah, and if there's anything we can do for you, you got our email now. Just shoot us an email.
Yeah, we'll do.
And we'll reach out to all of our following between Kat, myself, and then we have a co-host, Conservative Ant. We got a little over almost 2 million followers between all of us, so we can get any type of message out.
Sounds good.
You still do, Hutch.
Ooh, nice. Well, listen, I really ask your listeners, find out how your schools are dealing with this transgender issue. You're going to find that they're hiding it from parents, that you've got kids using the wrong bathrooms with your daughters, and all kinds of things are going on that you don't know about. Look into your school districts and start getting really active.
Yes.
If you're still allowing your kids to go to school at this point. I'm not.
Can you believe that people still have their kids in public school?
I understand that there's always going to be scenarios and reasons why you can't do it, and I get that, so I'm really not trying to be offensive right now. However, I believe the school system is abusing our children.
100%.
You believe that, and you're still sending them. Like, what?
100%. So this is a related issue. If I can just drag on for a little bit more.
Sure, go for it.
But one of the problems that we've had is that our ministers and pastors and priests just don't show up.
And they become so political. We left our church this year because of it. It was so
Thanks, Cats. Appreciate it. Appreciate your prayers.
Yes, and we'll have you on again to keep us updated.
So what I found out is these pastors don't want to do it because they're afraid they're going to lose their tax exempt designation.
Because I keep getting threatened with that.
I'm not going to say which church in Dallas.
Money now? Cool.
Yeah, it's about money. One of the largest Baptist churches in Dallas, I'm not going to say which one, but it's very, very large. I just told the guy, I said, pay your damn taxes and preach the gospel. That's what Jesus told you to do. Pay unto Caesar what is Caesar's and render unto God what's God. So just pay your damn taxes so you can preach the gospel.
Jeff Jeffers.
That's no excuse. Yeah, well.
I said it. He's on Fox all the time making money.
Yeah. So I say the same thing to people about public schools. You know what? Did you like that? Yeah. In public schools, people say, well, I have to work. We have both of us have to work. One of us can't stay home and teach the kids. You know what? Be poor for a little while and teach your kids.
And that's where we were, I'm a CNA. I could easily go back to work now that the schools are back open and all the rest of that. I'm very needed there.
Yeah.
However, do I want a car payment and a nicer car and to be comfortable? And then my son come home and tell me that he doesn't. I mean, they were already coming home starting to say stuff.
Again,
and I can't.
People
do it. I feel like I feel like I'm abusing them.
You're right. And what is this? What is this in America? Like when I grew up, we had swamp coolers.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't turn the lights on all day long. Like we didn't spend money specifically so that we could have a close-knit family.
Right.
Yeah.
What the heck happened?
I will say though, like since pulling them, and spending that extra time with them doing because we're doing unschooling.
Oh, that's even better. That's even better.
Outside in the chicken coop, they still
right on
the science stuff. They still learn anything.
Oh my God, I have a great story for you.
Just
listen to this story. So you guys don't know, I'm an applied mathematician. That's how I make a living.
Okay.
So my sons, we were out in the shop, we were cutting wood, and I was not allowing them to measure anything. So they had to do everything with ruler and compass with no ruler measurements or anything. So everything had to be done in ratios because I'm trying to teach them how to think in ratios rather than absolute measures. And it's very useful if you ever do engineering arithmetic, it's mainly all ratios, right? So my sons independently discovered the fast Fourier transform.
I don't know what that is.
Basically, you approximate one curve by using only circles and other curves. So they figured out how to approximate curves using ruler and compass, and they just like came to that all by themselves, working on these little problems.
It's pretty incredible the things that they will naturally figure out, especially if you remove them.
Unschooling is the way to go. That if there is ever a Texas way of educating kids, it's that.
Yeah, I that was my favorite one out of all of them, and I know that I can get like in the most shit with that one, but I'm not worried about it. They're little, they're 7 and 8.
Yeah,
it's your kids.
You know, I got this from an unschooling website. You know, I started like playing Monopoly with my kids, and they had to do the arithmetic quickly, and we had a little egg timer to do the arithmetic quickly, or the banker would keep all the money. So suddenly they just start doing this speed arithmetic. Like there's all these things you can do with kids to like get them there. You don't have to sit in a classroom and be lectured to all day.
No, because I'm not going to talk to them like they're beneath me. They're not beneath me.
They're not beneath. They're little humans, right?
Yeah.
They're little humans.
They're little people.
Man, I love you guys. You guys need to come over to my house. Let's have a barbecue.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely down for that.
I mean, I'm pretty far away, but I can
bring your kids.
Shit, I guess I'm coming back to that.
I knew you were going to use that excuse.
I've already been there twice this year. What's one more time? Well, I got to beat Tex. He's coming to Michigan twice in 1 year. I went to Tex.
Yes.
Who the winner is.
Yeah, we got to get you back out.
Yeah, we got to see who the travel winner of the year is going to be.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, Jeff, again, anytime reach out. We'll absolutely reach out and try and get you back on again as well.
Anything that you need. If you
please keep us updated.
We'll do. We'll do. You guys take care. I had a great time talking to you.
Absolutely.
And thanks for your prayers and care for my son, James and Jude.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.